I just had people asking me how to write books for years, and I gave them bullshit answers for years. And eventually this woman kind of called me out and made me actually help her. And then she kept referring people to me. And so it turned into this
Cool.
business. And so we did about 2.5 million in sales overall in the first 18 months or so.
Welcome to the From Within podcast. Today, it was a really cool day with Tucker Max. And you don't love him or hate him. The response I've got from mentioning that, hey, look, Tucker's coming on the show, people are like, oh, I love that guy. The other one's like, man, wasn't he a womanizer? And it's unbelievable the mixed messages I get from saying Tucker's on the show. I've had a lot of cool people on the show. Tucker has given the most reaction, I'm telling you. But what's interesting, though, is Tucker 15 years ago or 10 years ago when he wrote the books about his womanizing endeavors and talking about his college days is not the guy that I was talking to today. He has spent hundreds and hundreds of hours looking within. And this is why I have him on the show. Not because of his old fame, but because of his unrelentless heart and drive to look within himself and find out who is Tucker Max, what makes him tick. Today, he's a father, a husband. He came up with the most ingenious system to help you take the message that's in your heart and tell the story in book form. Massive bestsellers all the time. Ghostwriter would be just the absolute insult to what he does in his company called Scribe. But I got to tell you, seriously cool dude. And awesome conversations we had, from talking about how he's using MDMA for therapy, how he's used energy healers, and how he's helped my mentor, Philip McKernan, get his message out in the One Last Talk. Anyways, guys, check it out. You're going to love this one. Leave a review. Let me know what you thought. Jump on social media. Say, yo, just listen to your podcast. I loved it. I hated it, or whatever. But also rate it. I hear that's really good for me. I like to have that 5-star rating. Cheers. Enjoy. Hey guys, Ben Oosterveld here. I've got Tucker Max. I think there's a few people left on the planet that does not know who he is. He's made some loud noises in this life already. And I want to say welcome to the show, Tucker. Oh yeah, I caught him drinking.
Thanks,
Let's
man.
try this again.
Yeah, right.
Welcome to the show, Tucker.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you, man. The reason why you're on the show is it's funny because when I met you, I didn't even know who you were. You know, I was one of those guys, maybe the head in the hole, or maybe I was in rehab, one of the two. And you came out to California, and we were in a mentorship group with Phil McKernan, and you came and shared. But so I definitely want to get into that. But first, why don't we tell people that don't know who you are, like what you're doing, what you're up to, and a little bit of backstory.
Yeah, so, well, right now what I do is I founded a company called Scribe, and we help people write and publish their book. And so we've done some pretty big books over the last couple of years. David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me, which is, I mean, that you want to talk about something everybody knows. That's one. We did Tiffany Haddish's book. We did Philip McKernan's book, actually, who you're talking about, which I personally think is one of the very best books we've ever done. So that's kind of what I'm doing now. But then, like, I kind of got well known for, I wrote a series of books about 10 years ago that were all kind of really big bestsellers. I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell, Assholes Finish First, and Hilarity Ensues. They spent about 5 or 6 years on the bestseller list and sold about 3+ million copies worldwide or so.
Yeah, I watched a video 15 years old, or it was a 15-year or 10-year-old video of you getting interviewed by, I don't know what it was, CBC or something. Yeah, it was you talking about your book. It was really, really cool to look back. Do you ever look back at those?
Not really, dude. No.
Yeah.
Like when I watch videos of myself from that period, I'm just like I cringe at what a dumbass I was. It just the way I thought, and the delta between what I knew, what I thought I knew, and what I actually knew was so broad, and I didn't see it then, of course.
Yeah.
But now looking back, it's like I can see clear as day.
It's so
like
true.
just like, oh, dude, what are you doing? Like, you know,
You just want to, what would you say to him? Would you be like,
I couldn't say anything to that guy because he would not have listened. That's the
yeah,
problem,
interesting,
right? Like,
interesting.
my problem was not that I didn't have access to wise counsel. My
Hmm.
problem was I didn't listen to anyone.
Wow.
So like that's that's one of the ways we hire actually at my company.
Hmm.
Like we get all kind early on, but not anymore so much, but early on we got a lot of dudes and women applying to my company who like, oh, I'm just like Tucker Max. And I'm like, nope.
You are
Like,
not.
you're actually like me, we are not hiring you at
Yeah, that's
all
awesome.
because you're not going to listen to shit and you're going to be
Yeah,
a dumbass for at
yeah.
least another
Wow.
decade.
That's
You
totally
know?
good self-awareness, man. So good. You know what? It's funny. I was at a grad sale and it was this Reiki master was selling all their stuff. And I seen this book and it was it's a book on tape. There's like 5 cassettes for anyone that's millennials. So you have to Google that. And the cassette it's a fascinating name of a title. It was called First the Ecstasy, Then the Laundry. And in that book, so the idea is that you have these amazing spiritual times, or you have these amazing times in your life, but you still got to go, wipe your ass. You still got to go do the laundry. Like there's these high points we live for, but they're just, you got to go back to work. But
Yeah.
why I bring that up is because in that book, he says, you got to mourn your past. And it was just because I've got stories too, not Tucker Max as much, but I got my own stories. And the thing
Right.
is, I look back and I see that guy. I used to hate that guy, but now it's like you just look back and there's a mourning process goes, it's dumbass, but it's not. There's like almost a healing process that happens when you look back. That's what
Yeah.
that book taught me.
Yeah, no, it's that's a takeoff of the iconic Buddhist saying, "Chop wood." Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop
Mhm.
wood, carry water. Yeah, no, dude, it's true.
It's
Like
cool.
I hadn't framed it in my head as mourning my past. That's a good frame. The
Hmm.
way I always think about it is sort of like um, letting go of my mistakes and my ignorance. Like
Totally,
I've
man.
got all the scars and I've learned the wisdom, but I just need to
Yeah,
stop holding on to the stuff in my past that isn't serving me. And I'm not even acting like that. I mean, just like the baggage from it,
totally.
you know?
Totally. Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
get it 100%, man. It's like coming to peace with everything versus just some stuff. Like I like the new guy. I like the new guy better. Like you just don't have peace with it. But
Yep.
let's jump in. Let's jump in. So we're in California, and I hear this guy named Tucker Max is coming, and people are like, "Oh, it's Tucker Max." I'm sorry, man. I had no clue who you were, and you come in, you're just a guy, which is really cool because a lot of people we get blinded by what people have done. You know what I mean? We get kind of blinded, like, "Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, you don't know who each other are, man. That's just how it is." And so you came in, and I didn't know who you were, so it's kind of cool. And you sit down, I didn't know the the stories you had, but you were really neat because you looked like you had a tough edge. I didn't see you as a tough guy. I kind of seen past that, and I thought this is a guy that's gone through a lot of shit and a lot of work in his own life. And you started sharing things that were really cool. A couple things I'd like to bring up. I might be jumping around a little bit, but you can help me out here. But you told the story about how you're building this company. It's very much about your ego and how you moved yourself out of CEO position and then your company popped. Can you tell that story?
Yeah, so it's a company I led with. I'm talking about Scribe. It was called
Mhm.
Book in a Box originally, and we changed the name to Scribe about a year ago. But so I started with a friend of mine, Zach, and it kind of started by accident. I just had people asking me how to write books for years, and I gave them bullshit answers for years. And eventually, this woman kind of called me out and made me actually help her. And then
Mm,
she kept referring people to me, and so it turned into this
cool.
business. And so we did about 2.5 million in sales overall in the first 18 months or so,
Crazy.
which is really good considering we we kind of didn't really have any marketing or sales dialed in. It was just like, and it honestly, it's not really a compliment to us. It's more just the market. There was a huge demand for it, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so
Yep.
uh, and of course, because you get that kind of traction early with very few people, you think that it's all you. Even if you're rationally, you
You're
don't,
like, I'm a
emotionally
friggin'
inside
genius.
it. Right. Of course, I'm a genius. Look how good
Yeah.
I am
Yeah.
at business. I can make anything
Yeah.
work,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. And, but then about 2.5 million, the wheels started coming off because we were
Interesting.
really starting to scale.
Now what?
And
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, if you think you're good at something,
Hmm.
do it at scale and then see if you're still good at it, right?
It really challenges the system. People
Totally
can't.
changes it. Totally.
100%.
It's like
Yeah.
sports, right? Like like I was a high school star, and then I got to college, and I'm like, oh, I kind of suck.
Wow,
Like,
that's really good analogy.
same thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And
You
so
teared up.
yeah, and so like it took us about 4 to 6 months to really absorb the fact that we did not know how to actually run a business. We knew how to
Wow.
make books. We were good at that. But
Hmm.
how to run a business, especially at scale, I knew nothing.
Yeah.
And so, and I didn't even fully think I knew nothing. I just thought I didn't know enough to be the CEO of this company. And so we got really lucky, man. One of our clients was the president of a big software company in Austin that doing like 100 million in sales. And he did not found that company, but he was like their first salesman, and he became
Hmm.
president and scaled it up. He was the one really responsible for their growth. And he loved our service and our product and us, but was like, guys, you need help. And I'm like, I know.
Hmm.
Well, who's, like, tell me what to do, coach me. He's like,
Yeah.
no, like, you can't. You need someone who's done this. I can't even coach you.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
nothing against you. It's just too far. And I was like, and so we talked back and forth, and eventually he joined the company, or he agreed to join the company. And we actually had a debate about this. Like,
Hmm. And you were
would
the
I
CEO
stay?
at the time,
I
president,
was CEO,
CEO.
right?
Yeah.
And the debate was, would I stay CEO and he would be president, and he would kind of, be the ops person and grow it and help me sort of train to be CEO, or would he come in and be CEO? And honestly, man, it took about a week of me working with him to
You're like, done.
realize, like, I thought I was close to being a good enough CEO. I just
Wow.
wasn't. I just wasn't growing fast enough. About a week or two of working with him, I realized I couldn't even see what a good CEO looked like from where I was. I was so
Wow.
far away from being
Wow.
like
I
there
love
were
that.
so many unknown unknowns that I didn't obviously know about, right?
You just didn't
And so,
know.
like, after about 2 weeks, I was like, okay, this is bullshit. You're gonna be the CEO. I'm not even gonna be president. You're gonna be president and CEO,
Run it.
because you are so clearly better at this
Yeah.
than I am. That, like, here was the decision process for me. If the company is about me, then I'm going to stay as CEO. If the company is actually about the mission and the people we serve, then JT needed to be CEO. And
Hmm.
once it was framed that way, it was like, okay, I
Done.
got to step down and let him run this company. And we've done well over 25 million in sales since then.
We're
We
talking
might
how many years? How many years is that? Like 2?
3 years total. He just had
Amazing.
his 3-year
And
anniversary. Yeah.
just
And we're going
banging.
to do
That's
close to
crazy.
20 million in sales this year alone.
Is
And
it people,
it's because of him.
man, like every human being wants a book, it feels like. Every
Yeah,
second guy I talk to want a book, whether
yeah,
it's just to tell their
yeah,
story or to use it as a marketing tool. Everyone wants a book.
yeah.
And like, so the
There are
market's got
not a
to be
lot of
there.
people. It is, dude. It's not just people want a book. A book is secondary, I think. What it is there's two things. I think people truly want to share, to see their legacy codified, right? Someone like you who's done things in life that you're proud of, that are
Mhm.
meaningful. Like, it matters to you to see that recorded and shared in some way. But then, more than that, I think for people, it's about impact, right?
For
It's
sure.
about, like, hey, listen, I have
Legacy.
knowledge and wisdom that I can share with people that will help them, especially people that were like me in my situation.
Yeah.
And I can help people one-on-one, but if I put it into a book, I can help way, way more people. And so, like, we like to really I think for most people, books are about legacy and impact, but they're deeply intertwined. It's not
For sure.
legacy or impact. It is both, you
Yeah,
know?
it's the same thing. It's cool. I love the name that you've changed it to Scribe, because if you look back, if you look back at how some of the most ancient writings were, it was always a scribe. They would just,
Yeah.
it was never people writing their own work. It was just how it
No,
was. Like
of course.
even the Bible wasn't written that way. It was all scribes.
Right. No, of course.
Everything.
Of course.
That's why I love the name.
Jesus,
I thought it's so cool.
Jesus never wrote anything
He
down.
didn't.
Paul and the apostles did.
Yeah. And in
So it's
in
like,
in,
well,
de-
that's
in
good enough for
debate, did
Jesus.
someone else even listen to their story and their story? But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I love it. I love it. A couple other things that you said that so well, man. Like, I think that's so cool. It really gives a testament of your transition and the work you've done internally. And I remember you were sharing that you actually were leading in by saying how you kind of fucked up your movie opportunity
Yeah.
and with your ego. And then you said
Not kinda. I did.
yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. I'll let you beat it up worse than me. But But then you ran, someone had said, "Hey, I want to work with you," and it turned out to be like a shaman, or some psychologist. And
Yeah.
I'd like to hear a little bit
Yeah.
about that. I think that's really cool because
Yeah.
it tells
All
why
right.
you,
So,
it leads into why you walked away from CEO, and it wasn't like a life changing event. Like you obviously had to do some work to be able to eat your
yeah.
pride of it.
Yeah. Right. So the arc is like, how did I get to the point from like a guy who in video now makes me cringe to a guy who's self-aware enough to step aside for someone else to lead the company that he founded,
Yep.
right? Because they do a better job. Like, so basically what happened was my books, were a big deal. And then the kind of iconic first one, I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell, was turned into a movie. And without like diving too much into the details, and this is like a normal big Hollywood release movie, without going too much in the details, it should have been a huge movie and it wasn't, and it was my fault. I basically, my ego and my emotional issues screwed up the movie. I picked the wrong director. I picked a lot of the wrong people to work with because of my own issues. And then once we were on set, I fucked up a bunch of things. My anger and my other issues turned a script that should have been a major hit into a movie that didn't do what it should have. And so, and I don't blame the director sucked, but it's not his fault. I picked him, right?
Yeah,
And
it's ownership.
and like we had really good actors and we had a lot of things right, but
And you had a massive
I kind of
audience. You have a
screwed it up.
massive audience and everything.
We
Yeah,
had
totally.
a big enough audience and all that stuff. So anyway, what happened was from that point, that was a huge hit to my ego, and it really it kind of made me reassess my entire life, right? It was one of those moments where either I had to decide what kind of person I was going to be. I was either going to double down on who I was,
Yeah.
or I was going to realize that my ideas about life and myself were wrong, and I had to go find out what the truth was. And so that's what I decided. And it was a slow process, man.
For
like
sure. It always is.
I tried to fix everything, externally, and I did, right?
You probably want to just bang it out, right?
Right. Of course, like I got all my, like health and all that stuff in order, and it was all amazing. Everything in my life was great, and I was still kind of not miserable, but I just wasn't that happy. And it was like, okay, like clearly the issue's me, and I've got to deal with it. So I tried a bunch of different talk therapists and styles of talk therapy. I ended up
So that's sitting on a couch style. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I ended up doing psychoanalysis, which is just a form of talk therapy. Like cognitive behavioral therapy is a form of it. There's a lot of different types. And so I did that and when I'm like the type, when I go in on something, I go in. So I went 4 days a week for 4 years. And I really spent a lot of time kind of talking about this stuff and understanding myself and all these things. And it worked really well for a while. And then after about 4 years, I kind of had explored everything I could explore with that sort of therapeutic modality. And so then totally randomly at this conference, this woman came up to me and she's like, we need to work together. And I was like, well, what do you do? She's like, I'm an energy healer. I'm like, yeah, okay, thank you. But, right. And she's like, she kind of started talking. I'm like, it turns out she's a shaman. She says energy healer because a lot of people in America don't know what a shaman is, but I know what shamans are. And I'm like, okay, at least if you're coming from a shamanic tradition, at least I'm going to take you a little seriously, but still good for you. I'm not going to lay down and have you chant over me. That's fucking nonsense. Right. And so, anyway, so she's like, look, I just have this feeling we have to work together. Let's do a session for free. Like just sit down. If it doesn't work, great. And so, we did a session, and I didn't tell anybody about this, of course, because who am I going to tell? I'm seeing a shaman. Like, this is nonsense. and I was like, okay, like I felt basically the same afterwards. I was like, thank you. And then she's like, okay, I'll you have my number. I'll expect your call in a week, and we'll set up the rest of the appointments. And okay. And I go home, and that night, my wife turns to me on the sofa. That was like 10 in the morning. I did the session. That night, like, it's like 8 or 9 at night. My wife turns to me and she goes, what's wrong with you? I'm like, what? What do you mean? Like, what's wrong? What do you mean what's wrong? She's like, you're different today. I'm like, what? What do you?
Crazy.
She's like, no, you just like in bad. What happened? She's like, you feel so much lighter and so much. She's like, I don't know what you did today, but keep doing it. And I was like, fuck.
Now I gotta go do this.
Like, oh, dude, it was so frustrating because I had already forgotten about like the
Yeah.
shaman thing because it's like, come on.
It's so weird, and it's like whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, like, because listen, you can dismiss this as placebo effect, and you might be right, but
Yeah.
I'm happy to pay for placebo effect, right?
Yeah,
If
if it
it
works,
works,
it
it
works,
works,
right?
right?
You got it.
So I saw her for about a year, and then it was kind of funny, man. Like I didn't tell my wife for 6 months, and I
Oh,
felt
you
all guilty
didn't?
about it. No, I
That's
didn't.
great. I
No, no,
love that. You just kind of wanted to do. It's totally a test, right? You're like, let's see if this shit works. I
right.
love that.
But then I felt guilty about it. Um,
Why would you feel guilty?
I don't because I tell my wife
Because
everything. And
because
like
you
this
felt like
is
you're
like
hiding
the thing
something.
that I'm doing,
Yeah, yeah.
and so of course, like an idiot. Here's how I tell my wife. I'm like,
I've been
I
seeing
just
a
felt so
woman.
guilty one day. I was like, honey, like we need to talk about something, and I'm acting all guilty because I
Looks
genuinely
like you're
feel guilty.
freaking cheating on her.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, honey, I gotta tell you, like I've been seeing this woman, and like her face drops, and I'm like, no, not like that.
Total guy move,
An
hey?
old lady who lives in Michigan. No.
Oh my
And of course, she
goodness.
was like more. I'm like, no, good. And so there was like a whole hour to like, no,
To
no,
explain it.
Sean. Right. What's funny is Veronica ended up seeing her as well, my
Oh
wife,
wow.
and actually really liked it a lot. But
Hmm.
anyway, so that went for about a year and a half, and it was great for a while, but then it kind of got to the level where like again, I had kind of explored all I could explore. And then I
Yeah.
don't even know if you know this, but over the last year, what I've gotten into that's really helped me, I want to say more than the other two, but at least as much as the other two, is MDMA therapy. So
MDMA.
like MDMA, like what the psychoactive component of ecstasy. Like it's
Like
fucking crazy.
psychedelics?
No. So psychedelics, it's sort of similar, but it's a
Yeah,
very
yeah.
different class of drugs.
Okay.
Psychedelics are psilocybin or LSD or
Yep.
ayahuasca.
Yeah.
So they all act, they're tryptamine derivatives. They act on your brain in a very specific way. MDMA is a very different substance.
Really?
Yeah, it acts on your brain in a very different way. It is not psychoactive, or it is not a psychedelic at all. So it's ecstasy. It's like but people take at raves and shit,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah, 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 yeah,
Okay,
for sure.
it's the
Got it.
same
Got it.
psychoactive compound, but ecstasy is usually mixed with other stuff.
Yeah.
What this therapy, you take just pure MDMA, nothing else,
Yeah.
and it's fucking crazy, man. Like you put, but I've had some buddies who I won't say their names because they're not public about themselves doing this, but
Yeah.
people very well.
We're
Either
doing it.
they're famous and you know who they are, or you actually know them.
Yeah.
And they've been telling me for years, like dude, you need to do MDMA therapy. Like it will
Crazy.
be perfect for you. And so like what you do is you basically you take the MDMA just a little bit, 200 milligrams, not a microdose, but not much.
Yep.
And you put on an eye mask, and you basically lay back, and you're with like sort of a sitter, like someone who's experienced,
Like a facilitator of some sort.
right. And they don't say anything. If you want to talk, they'll talk to you, but they're just there to make sure you're safe, and if you have to go to the
Yeah.
bathroom, they help you or whatever. And usually play a little music or whatever, and it's like just light sort of airy music. And man, after like the first time I did it, I'm sitting there and like no effect for like 45 minutes. I'm like, all right.
So
But
boring.
then all of a sudden it sneaks up on you, dude. And what it does is it floods your brain with serotonin. So you feel the deepest love you have ever felt in your life, dude. It is the craziest thing, man. And then what happens, and I'm like describing it very sort of high level. Basically, it makes your brain feel safe, so that it brings up the trauma and the sort of hard emotional issues that your brain won't bring up because it's too afraid. Your unconscious is too afraid. They're overwhelming. And so like, man, the first time I did it, dude, all this fucking shit came up. Wow. And I spent 4 years in therapy and a year of energy work. And like none of it was stuff for some people, it's like shocking stuff that they forgot about or pushed away. For me, none of it was that. Like it was all of it was stuff I knew about, but I had not processed the emotions. Truly in depth processed the emotions, right? Dude, it was fucking incredible, man.
Never even heard of this, man.
So I've done it 4 times since then. So 4 total.
Yeah.
And man, it's been life-changing.
So is it addictive?
No, not at all. No.
It's crazy. That's crazy.
No,
cool,
it's not legal. So to make this very clear, like I'm breaking the law here, right?
Yeah.
some people say it's sort of similar. It's you can think of it like psilocybin mushrooms or LSD, but it has a very different reaction, because you're always in your right mind the whole time. Like, you know where you are, what time it is, you know who you are. You have none of the visual things like that. None of that. It is just an emotional release. It doesn't really even add anything to your body. It just creates.
So is there someone talking to you during this, after? Like, you just sit there and then leave?
No. So right now it's in stage 3 trials. So there's been a lot of studies on this. Most of them are in Israel, but some in the US. And it is, dude, the data on it is fucking crazy, man. The stage 2 trials,
it's crazy.
They treated, they tested it on treatment resistant PTSD victims. Right. So people like, these are like people who had been in war, like extreme rape survivors, like the PTSD, people who are treatment resistant but still have PTSD, right? 83% cure rate for treatment resistant PTSD. Yeah, cure.
But do they have to live on it
trauma
ever?
After a year? No, you take it once or twice. I've taken it 4 times because apparently I got a lot of fucking trauma, I guess. But like, no, I mean, some people
makes
only
me
need it
so
once or
curious,
twice.
man. Like, the shit that I've gone through in my life from a kid and from everything in my life, I've gone through so much shit. Be interesting. And disconnect, man. I've been trying for 10 years to connect. You know what I mean?
I will send you, I wrote a whole piece,
crazy.
like a 9,000 word piece about this, about, because I kept journals, like dude, the whole month afterwards, I kept a bunch of journals, and I posted them. They're all on Medium. Just Google Tucker Max MDMA. I'll send you the piece afterwards.
Yeah, do it.
It has changed my life. And like, I'm not going to say on the podcast, I'll tell you afterwards if you want.
Sure.
We have a ton of mutual friends who have started doing this because of me and some other people I know.
Crazy.
And it has had the same impact on them, man. This shit's going to be legal in about 2 or 3 years.
So how has it affected relationships around you?
Dude, it's crazy, man. It's like, I already had a really good relationship with my wife and children, but it's like, we had no relationship issues, but the issues in our relationship were baggage that I brought to the relationship, right? Like, it's really, I'll give you a good example. It's really hard for me to trust people, especially people close to me, right? And dude, my wife is the sanest, most stable, most trustworthy woman I've ever met, right? Like, I can think of women who may be in her category, but I've never met a woman who's more stable, more sane, and more rock solid trustworthy than my wife. Awesome. And I still struggle to open up to her, right? So that has nothing to do with her, obviously. That's 100% about me. And dude, the difference, I did my first session in September of last year. And so it's been whatever, like 8 months. And the difference in that period in our relationship, and it all just changes in me, has been night and day, dude. Like, we are 3 times closer, but it's only because I have opened up more and come closer to her.
And I've experienced that in my life personally. It doesn't sound like that level though. You know what I mean? It's cool, man. Yeah, well, that's cool, man. That's like you said, that's coming up. If it's getting results, it's coming up. You know,
dude, cool. There are so many people doing it. Like, you and I are in a lot of the, maybe not the same, but a lot of mastermind groups and all that. Dude, so many people in these groups, all of them are doing it. All of them are talking about it. No one's talking about this publicly because it's illegal and everyone's all weirded out about it. But of course, I'm the asshole. Like, I don't care. Like the cops are not looking for a guy who does 200
milligrams. Exactly.
Like, or whatever. Like, that's not what they're looking for, man. They have real problems to worry about. So I'll just talk about it publicly. I don't care, because it is that impactful in my life, man.
It's pretty cool. Well, send me the link. I want to see it. I'll share it to the notes too if you want. I can share it to the
of course.
Notes. That's awesome, man. So I'd like to hear a little bit about One Last Talk and that movement that's happening a little bit too. When it comes to how did that happen? Did you seek out Philip? Like, how did that? Did he call you and say, "Hey, I want to do a book"? I just knowing Philip being a friend of mine and how the impact that you've had on that process. I'd love to hear about from your perspective.
Yeah. So Philip and I met at, so I actually, the whole story is the intro of One Last Talk of the book, how we met. And he like kind of called me out, and a little bit, he was right. But I was like pissed about it. I was like, fuck this guy. but then, we run in a lot of the same circles. So we kind of saw each other. And then, like whatever you think about Philip McKernan, personally, the dude's an amazing speaker and he nails it a lot of times. And so like, you can't help but develop a respect for the guy, regardless of whatever other things you think.
Yeah.
And so of course that happened. And then he saw me work on a lot of books and do a really good job with a lot of people he knew. And so I went to TED one year in Vancouver, and this is when he was still living there. And so we decided to get dinner, and he invited me over to his house. And I honestly think the only reason Philip liked me is because his kids liked me so much. Like, Maggie and Charlie, right?
Oh yeah.
And so like Maggie like drew a bunch of drawings and gave them to me. And Philip was like, "What the hell is going on?" He's like, "She never does this for anybody." And I'm like, "Oh wow, don't like me. What do you want me to do?" No, but we got along. We ended up really getting along well once we kind of sat down and got to know each other. And then he had just started doing One Last Talk then.
Yep.
And we were talking about books, and he was like, we had a couple ideas, and I'm like, okay, that's solid. And then he started talking about One Last Talk, and he just lit up.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I'm like, okay, hold on. I'm gonna McKernan you, McKernan. Like
Nice.
the only thing you've talked about in this whole time I've been at your house that made you truly excited is your family and One Last Talk. And I'm like, that's the book you have to do. And so he was like, well, I don't know. And this and that. I said, look, man, I'm not going to push you. I'll be here when you're ready. And so we talked probably 3 times in the next year or so. And then eventually, and he saw enough of the impact of One Last Talk on people around him. And so like, he decided to do it. And then I actually worked with him personally instead of my team, because I knew it was a book where he's an unusual person. You got to have a certain way to deal with him, right? And not to say he's difficult, but just like he needs someone to help basically translate the way he speaks is so good. They've got to be able to translate it to the page so it feels like him speaking on the page.
Yeah, I could see that as a challenge.
So, yeah, it was hard, man. I'll be honest. But like, not because of him. He wasn't, we have hard offers.
Excuse me.
Hard offer. But, we ended up with, I think, what's a really good, it's so funny, man. I might be more proud of that book than any book I've personally ever written.
That's pretty big, man.
Not 1% of the genius in the book is mine. It's all his. Like all of it is his.
Wow.
But like the book turned out so well. It captured his voice so well. And the impact it's had on people. I knew the ideas were amazing. There was no doubt about that. Yeah. But seeing the ideas get translated in book form without him having to be in the room, that was we weren't sure if
that's pretty rare. Like how do you clone Philip? That's always the line, right? How do you clone Tuck? How do you clone? But Philip's a different cat, man. He's one of a kind. So we both have something in common. So I've done my One Last Talk. You've done your One Last Talk. Yeah. I was at the first one that was called The Summit. It's funny. I love evolution. You know what I mean? Like forward motion is more exciting to me than figuring out what's right. Like you just move forward. Like you were booking the box, now you're Scribe. I always get off on that. Like it's so cool to be like, just evolve it, just change it. Yeah. That's okay. And but you did your One Last Talk. So can you share a little bit about that process? I know there was when you do the One Last Talk, there's for the experience that we had, there's a speaker's retreat. You go through it, you do kind of a practice run. They get challenged a little bit and they help you bring it through. Yeah. What was it like for you?
So first off, if anyone in your audience has not read One Last Talk, you need to go buy the book and read the book. Like I cannot, if you can buy that book and make it to page 50 without crying, call me and I'll send you $100. There's no way. Then you're gonna have to send it back when you get to page 75 because you'll be crying there. Like you cannot make it through those first 7 One Last Talks without crying. It's an amazing book. But so I thought it would be easier for me, to be honest, because I'm a pretty good speaker. Like I've spoken in front of thousands of people, hundreds of times. Like I can get on stage and I can own it. And I was going through the process authentically. Like I wasn't just trying to be a journalist and like report on it. But at the same time, I thought like, okay, I've done a lot of emotional work and I'm a good speaker. This shouldn't be that hard for me as compared to other people. I actually think it was harder for me than for most people. Like I went with Neely, Neely, of course. Yeah. She was in my group in Quan, and Legacy. And I actually thought I had the worst one last talk of that whole group because of that, because like I was so used to, I'm not fake when I speak, but there's still a performative aspect
Still a
to it, right?
polished and
Right, right,
practiced.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's like skill. It's a skill sometimes, right? Versus
Right, it is.
vulnerability. It's hard to have a skill of vulnerability.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Because if it's a skill, then you're no longer really being vulnerable.
exactly. It's
And
a
so it
skill.
was really hard for me to get out of the I'm on stage mindset and I'm
Yeah,
sharing mindset, right?
yeah.
And just to really dive into the issues and the thing. And so it's funny. I was the only one who had to bring notes on stage. I was
So
the, I was a professional speaker and I
and
had to bring
no
notes on
doubt,
stage.
it's amazing.
Yeah, it was hard, man. It was really hard. And I went as deep as I could on stage. And then, like, it was just like Philip says, as soon as I got off stage, it's like, oh, man, I want to go deeper. But the thing was, I couldn't have gone deeper at that moment. I went as deep as I could have,
Yeah, cool.
But dude, it was hard, man. That's the thing, man. If it's not hard, you're not doing it right.
100%, 100%. No, I remember, man. I remember doing my talk too. It was pretty like if you had 15 minutes to live, like, or 15 minutes and that's it, you die in a way, right?
Yeah.
And you got to give a message. My talk may be a book day one day called Burn Your Faith, which is that you're adopted by everyone. Your beliefs are fully adopted by everything else. You've been told what to do all your life. And I think you need to put on the fire. What's real stays. What doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Been told all our life to be certain ways. So what was your one last talk called?
I forget the title, man. It was basically about kind of what we've been talking about. It was about how hard it is for me to open up to and be vulnerable to my wife and kids, and how hard it is for me to connect to them, even though I love them.
That's pretty honest, man.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's funny. That's a good illustration from a speaker's perspective. You struggling to be vulnerable on stage, talking about vulnerable. It works. It works.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
I mentioned to Philip, I said, hey, Philip, I'm chatting with Tucker on the podcast. So I said, you want to throw him a question? And so I got a question from Philip. Usually just kicks people's ass if I ask him that. But today he didn't kick your ass. He actually asked a real question. I was like, oh, you're going to go serious on me? I was hoping you'd just tell him he's an idiot or something. But there actually is one guy. I was just on a Facebook message with, Steve Sims.
Of course.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I love Steve. We helped him with his book.
But he said you're fucking useless, to be honest. That's literally what he said to me. And
if Steve Sims doesn't say bad shit about you, that means he doesn't like you.
Yeah, that's good. No, I've been getting to know him. He's a pretty cool dude. And but he's like you need to tell Tucker to come to jail. So I'm going. I'm going in April, and I'm bringing my two guys that work for me. We're gonna go down as a team. And,
dude, I don't know, man. Jail hits too close to home for me.
Jail's scary.
Going to jail a few times.
Seriously, man. Like I'm not scared of anything, and I'm nervous about this one. I'm like, and then I know it's going to be impactful, but yeah, going down to jail to speak to those inmates, I'm sure they're going to be turning it around on us. That's how I hear. So, but you should come. That'd be fun. But anyways, but Philip did say he sent me a voice message because this is what he does. So he was thinking, he goes, you know what? Ask Tucker, do you feel I kind of know the answer to some of this already. Do you feel you've changed since, and do you have any, from the past of who you were? Like, do you feel like you've changed? Obviously you have. Do you have any regrets in writing the books that you did? Or was it just a phase in your life like we've all had? Like, who are you then and who are you now?
No, dude, I will never have regrets for being who I am. Ever. That's bullshit. No, I'm not calling Philip's question bullshit, but I'm saying, like, I'm just never ever going to I can't imagine regretting who you are, right? You can regret things that you do, of course, man. I made mistakes, like, oh man, I wish I hadn't done that.
Well, maybe that's more the question, right? Like, do you regret the things?
No, but they're very different things. They're very different things. It's a very different question. Asking, do you regret who you were versus do you regret?
No, it wasn't that. It was referring. He's referring to books you've written. You've come a long ways. You look back, do you regret writing the books? And then the second question is, who are you then, and who are you now?
Yeah, no, I do not regret writing the books at all, man. Like, if there's one defining aspect of me in my life, I will always stand up and speak my truth out loud, and that's what I was doing then. And if someone has a problem with that, I have no problem if someone's like, hey, listen, some of the things you did, I don't agree with. Okay, cool, whatever, no big deal. But like most people who were really anti me were upset that I was standing up and speaking my
Yeah, I
truth.
hear you, man. I hear
Right.
you.
And like that,
But do you know what? Do you know what's about
you
you
know,
too? The one thing that I can't take with people, I would never have a show. I would never talk to these guys. These guys that don't own their shit. That's the
right.
one thing that I have art, and that's like the opposite of you. Like the one thing you do, and this is how I've got out and become
Right.
healthy is I own everything, man. Like I had bad shit with happened in my life. I own it. It's mine.
Yep.
I don't put it on anybody. And I think that's the place where we can actually grow and actually become successful. And I see that in you, and that's everything you own. And I think that's good.
No,
And I think,
100%,
you
dude.
know what I
It's
mean?
100% yes. No, if you aren't willing to own the good and the bad, like if you aren't willing to stare the shadow self, your shadow self in the eye, then it will own you and consume you, right? So
100%, man.
no, I don't regret writing those books or sharing that stuff or being honest or telling my truth. No, never.
Yeah.
Now that being said, of course, there's things I did was like, like that. I definitely regret specific actions,
Yeah.
but not that many of them, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the only things I regret, the only specific actions I regret are things that I did that like that I didn't need to do that were hurtful to other people, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but like, I mean, come on, like that's everybody, right?
Yeah.
So, but yes, I absolutely have some of those things now. So what was the second part of the question? Who am I now?
So who are you then? Who are you now?
All right, so that's a different question. Who was I then? I
Maybe that's what
was,
we're trying to get to.
yeah. No, that's a very different question. Um, Honestly, who I was then, I was a lonely, sad kid,
Hmm.
straight up. That's who at
It's
the
powerful.
at the deep core. That's
Hmm.
who I really was. Um, that's not the only thing, but
Hmm.
that's like,
But
yeah,
that's a core. Yeah.
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 That was the deep emotional core.
Yeah.
And everything else was covering up that. And who am I now? I mean, honestly, the answer is now I'm a dude that's along the path of healing that.
Hmm. Of healing that, you
The
said?
sad, the healing that sad, lonely kid.
Crazy, man. Yeah, that's cool. Really cool. It reminds me of when I first very started working with Philip. And like the where he's, if you looked at it from the outside, it's like looking at golf. It's like, oh yeah, you hit the ball in the hole. Like it
Yeah.
almost feels a little bit like, yeah, you just ask you a couple of stupid questions and it makes you cry. Like, but yeah, he asked me what I would tell my little kid, and I had no clue. Like completely, I freaking broke down. Like I was the same thing. Like as a little kid, it's amazing how that kind of goes through your whole life, you know, and just still stays
Yep.
there. So there's one question, a little bit, maybe a little shift in direction, and but I was thinking about. I heard a story of you. You know, you had a law degree, and you went to law school. You hated it, right? Your parents didn't understand that. I just think if you were to speak to someone into the camera in a way that's living a life that they think they should be living, that they hate, what advice would you give them? Long form, not like quit your fucking job. Like what would you say? Like if they're listening to this show, there's a lot of people that are so stuck and they're living a life
Yeah.
they don't want. They're following everyone else's plan. And I know that it's not really what you're doing. So I would
No.
like to hear what
No,
you have to
that's
say
one of
about
the
that.
things I've been good at in my life. Pretty good at is following my own plan. You know, straight up, man, I might be the worst person to give advice on this because of that.
Mm,
Because from a very early age, um, I was pretty good at, I was better than most. I don't want to say I was that good, but I was better than most at having the courage to live my own life. Although the only reason I even started down that path is because like I got fired and whatever. Like I didn't have the courage to just say no, I'm not going to
yeah,
do this.
it's cool.
I kind of had to fail my way into it a little
Yeah,
bit. But like I see a lot of people like that now.
yeah.
We deal with a lot of people like that, even a lot of our clients, our authors.
Mm,
And what I always tell them is it's pretty simple, man. Like I think I probably stole this from McKernan, to be honest. I always look at them and be like, well, what's your life worth? But this and that, I'm not sure if I can, and I got to do this. I've said, okay, so your life isn't worth it then. It's that simple, man. Like, I mean, it's not that easy. Okay, fine. Then just understand that you don't value your life, that
That's
you would
heavy,
rather
man.
live someone else's life. And like, that is a thing that McKernan and I do have a lot in common, and we get along really well about, is like, probably one of the things he likes the best about me is that I don't let him pull his shit on anyone else or on himself, right? He's really good at not letting anyone else kind of pull that shit on themselves, but I can hold that mirror up to him just as well. Because I have to do it to so many other people, either in our company or authors or whatever.
Sure.
But everything else is just a way to complicate a decision that's actually very simple. You know, a friend of mine's a therapist, and he'll tell you, he's like, yeah, man, people will come. He's kind of like McKernan. People will come into my office and spend years of their time and tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars of their money to avoid telling me or to avoid saying the thing they know they have to say. You know, and it's like,
yeah, I've seen it so much too.
Right, I know, and it's like,
Tons.
look, okay, fine. Then like, I'm telling you, okay, fine. Just understand, you don't value your life very highly, and you're willing to suffer because you are afraid of living your life. Okay, great. Then just accept that. Well, no, that's not what I said.
I don't
Blah
want to
blah
accept
blah.
that
And
either.
it's like,
Yeah.
it is what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's it. And then it's like, you know, some people get it and they're like, fuck, and they go, and then others,
they go around the block again. That's all that happens. They keep going around the same block. So when you're working with an author, do you ever have that feeling of like, this is not your book?
Oh, all the time. I tell them that at the beginning. We've actually had to become world class at this, because
I can imagine, like, I know what I want to write. You're like, no, write this one. There's a lot more passion behind it. There's something real about it. And you're like, no, I want the 10 steps to success. It's my favorite book, you know?
Well, so like that's why, so our process, before we sign people, we put them through this process actually.
Yeah.
And it's very simple. It's what do you want your book to, what do you want your book to get for the reader? What do you want the reader to get from it? What do you want to get from it? Right? So like, you have to be very clear. Okay, the reader's going to have a benefit. You're going to have a benefit. Who's the audience? You got to make sure that that person they envision reading.
It's just basically marketing.
Right, exactly.
And then know your target market. Yeah.
And once you know your audience, then it's like, okay, do you have something to say that audience will care about? And if all three things or all four things line up, that's the book. And most of the time they don't line up because they'll have something somewhere that's off. And so our job is to get that thing aligned and understand, okay, in the course of your life and who you want to be and what you want to get, this is clearly the book in front of you or not.
So do you feel you're more of a counselor, psychologist? Like, you got to be somehow like involved. Like, I'm almost like, hey, go to Scribe and they're going to help you work through your inner shit. And then a book pops out. Is that how it works?
For a lot of authors, it does, dude.
Really?
For a lot.
I could imagine.
Not all of them, not all, but a lot of them, dude. Yeah. It's crazy, dude. No, we've had to become like world-class psychologists and therapists because, dude, for a lot of people, getting them through the book is like, it's almost like childbirth. It's like an emotional childbirth. And so we've got to like understand the triggers, and we've actually broken it down. We have 3 different avatars of people, and we kind of know roughly who all of our client, what bucket they fit into. And once we know the bucket, then we know the triggers. And so then we kind of pull those triggers with them. For some people, it's about, you know, like about the reader. And so for those people, I just have to be like, oh, Ben, so your book's about helping people start a real estate business. Yep, it is. Great. Okay, fantastic. So you're going to do revisions? Oh, well, I can't. Okay, Ben, well, then fuck those people, right? Screw everyone who needs to build a real estate business. No, I can't.
No.
Right. If that's your motivation, that's how I get you.
Totally.
If your motivation is more significance and belonging and those sorts of things, then it's like, Ben, do you want to be an author or not? Do you want to you want your book on my shelf? Do you want to stand in that category or not? Then it's like, okay, yeah. right? And then there's another one where it's about more about the sort of tangible benefits and how those are going to impact their family and other stuff. And so it's like,
Just
so
motivators.
you have to understand the triggers for them, because it's very much the thing that like people won't change until the pain of staying the same is more than the pain of changing. We've got to make the pain of staying the same really in their face to get them to go.
Have you had anyone not finish their book?
Oh yeah, of course.
Really?
We have, dude, we probably have 24. No, we've done more than 1,000
and they've
books
paid.
now.
They
So,
pay.
dude,
Like they pay the money and then they don't finish it.
We have at least 20 people, 20 right now, whose books are done. The books are good. I mean, when I say
they won't
done,
let it out.
Mean done. They have ghosted on us.
No way.
Paid.
And they're just like, they're just terrified. Wow, that's amazing.
And they won't. And the people who are truly terrified won't actually admit to it, so they ghost on us. They will not respond to calls or phone or email.
And you're talking like what, 20? Wow, that's fascinating, man. Glad we asked that, because that's so interesting. So do you have guys that are just doing tons of books with you as well?
Oh yeah. So
just banging them out.
Let's see, someone you might know. Bob Glazer's doing 3. Cameron Harold's doing 3. We got a bunch of them. Yeah.
I just had Cameron on the show. I was just at his house in Vancouver having dinner. He's a nice guy, super nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, it was really funny. I got this on my mic.
Oh yeah, there you go. Cameron's book.
Didn't you have something to do with that? That's funny, eh? Yeah. He gave that to me when I was in Vancouver. I'm using it as my mic stand, so it's right in front of me all the time. That's terrible, eh? It's right here. So, well, you know what, man? I think we've got amazing show here. We've covered some really, really good stuff. At the end of every show, I always ask my guest. You don't have to, but I say, if you have a question for me, I always like to say, turn it around on me, because I always think everyone's got some really cool questions. And if you have a question for me, I can answer that as well.
All right. Well, so I got one for you. What's the question that no one's ever really asked, but you've always wanted to answer?
It's almost like you assume there's an agenda or something, or I'm waiting for someone to ask me. No, I don't. My initial reactions, I don't. Oh, look at you! You're setting up here. Great. I can read them like the best of them do. You know what? I've had a pattern ask me. I've seen people ask me the same question. How do you do so much shit?
Yeah.
You do so much shit.
Yeah, I know the answer to that. That's easy.
Yeah. See, look, you lean in. Here we go. You're like, okay, Ben's been with Philip. Let's hit him.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Actually, I was thinking again, because like the normal stuff that I would ask people and like get them crying and fuck them. You've had Philip doing this to you.
I'm like, bring it, buddy.
Right. Bring it. I can't.
Okay, let's see what now I'm in the game. Let's see what you got.
How about this one then?
Okay.
When are you gonna write your book?
So you go to pitch me. That's what you're doing?
No, I'm asking you when. I'll send you my book that tells you exactly what to do. I'll send it to you for free. You don't have to pay us.
Yeah, you know what? It burns in my heart, dude. It does. I think that's
the point.
Yeah,
so why haven't you?
I don't know. I
mean,
think it's. I feel like it's.
You do all these.
Here we go.
All over Facebook doing all these conferences, helping people. You do this podcast to help people, but I guess people who want to read about this.
Okay, here's the truth. Here's the truth. I'm not interested in real estate. That's why. Mm-hmm. So I'm writing right now. I've got an academy that all these real estate agents come and I coach them, but it's all about the internal. It's called Agent from Within. Like I'm changing the whole industry on the coaching, because I'm a crazy good marketing sales guy. So I've got crazy good stuff that way. That doesn't turn me on, but it's really, really effective. What's amazing is talking about the fear of success, talking about how people pleasers, you sabotage your own business, like stuff like that. So if I was to write a real estate book, like I'm doing this in a way, like I'm writing every time I do.
Don't write a real estate book then. Write a book about fear of success, or write about that in the context of real estate.
Well, that's exactly it. And so I think that's it. I think I've probably written about 80 pages, to be honest, in a book on real estate.
So you love writing about it. You're just afraid to
I actually really like writing. I'm just ADD. When I get in the zone, it's good writing. But yeah, no, I haven't pulled the trigger on it. So
you're writing, you're just not going to publish it.
No, sure. I just got to finish it. So when you're you need a scribe.
No, not necessarily, dude. No. No. If
Okay.
you like sitting down and writing, you shouldn't do the interview program. That wouldn't make any sense. Like
Yeah.
we have a whole separate program that's for people who want to write the book themselves, but they want structure and guidance and they want someone to publish it. Like,
Yeah.
and we have a 2-day workshop that I run. That's like, and dude, you want to talk about dealing with fear? We spend at least a third of the workshop dealing with fear and emotional issues around writing, because that's
Yeah.
usually the biggest obstacle for people.
Yeah.
It's not the information's easy. I tell you exactly what to do. I could tell you that in an hour. Like, it's not that hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's all the shit that's mixed in with it. Plus then all the advice about here's how to position and structure and this specific advice. Those are the two things. We spend a third of the time on info, a third of the time on your book specifically,
Yeah.
and a third of the time on fear and emotions.
Yeah, I think it has to be, like, if anything's going to be successful nowadays, I call the man behind the strategy has to be involved in everything we do, like everything. So I don't know.
Well,
So
are you going to do it or not? I don't care about with us. That doesn't fucking matter. I'm talking about, are you going to do your book or not?
Sure. Yeah. Now, when, where, when, how, like that's so I'm in a process. My strategy is to write the book as I'm building so I've got this academy that I'm doing. So every time I do my 1-hour academy session 3 times a month, I'm writing like a new chapter in the book every time. So that's kind of forcing me to produce all the content for this book. And and so I've got that's how I'm doing it. So you get 5, let's say you get 8 or 9 polished up, and I give it to my clients as that's their like, it's almost like I deliver the chapter of the book to the clients. So it's like 10 pages or something on exactly that topic. So I'm building by topic.
That's actually a good way to. That's a good way to. Teaching it first. That is a pretty good way.
Yeah, the reason why I'm doing that is because I understand like psychology, and I'm trained in Myers-Briggs and all these archetypes, and I know myself, I'm a crazy starter. And finishing's hard. So what I do is I overcommit, put myself in a position where I'm forced under pressure. So under the cramming personality, I'm amazing. And if you give me a pathway to finish, I won't do it. So I've committed to 3 coaching sessions every month because I want to extract information out of myself. That's literally my hidden agenda.
Yeah. All right. Well, then when you're done, dude, when you're done, you need an editor and a publisher. Send it to us. That's what you want to pay someone to finish. We'll finish for you.
Yeah. So once I have all those kind of like chapters built into chapters, my plan was to send it into somewhere where I can get it into an actual book, because then so the first one is the 90-day primer, how to start your business, how to agent from within. The second one is after the sale, but it's all based on personal growth and real estate and marketing, which is non-existent in this market.
Yeah.
There's nothing, especially real estate.
Teaching this stuff to real estate agents, really?
Nope. Oh, you should see Tucker, man. I was at all my events. Like, we're talking standing ovations. I'm talking about personalities. I'm laying it down. It's like a Philip style. And but I also bust in how to do marketing, how do you have a converting mechanism? Why are you just putting your face on something? You got to have an ability to talk to them. Like, it's this crazy mixture of heavy personal growth mixed with heavy sales and marketing. It's just a combination that's not being done.
Do you know, I can't remember do you know Sam Karamian and Roland Frazier and those guys? They have a big real estate group. I'll connect you to them. They might like to have you as a speaker to their group.
Yeah,
I'm just launching a real estate agent mastermind. Well, when you have it ready, let me know.
I'll put I'm just probably within the next month, I'll have an actual speaker's website out. I'm getting a lot of speaking engagements asked, and a lot of people are asking. So so I'm just going to put that, formalize an offering of some sort, put some details together. I can share it with you.
Yeah. All right. Put it up. And then when you have it, let me know. And I'm going to send it to them. They have a pretty high level, I don't know real estate that well, but they have a pretty high level real estate mastermind. Like real estate agents, like the big ones.
Yeah. Like I've got no many people come to me and say, I've hired this guy, and it's just completely different. So, but what do? You call them and say, hey, I'm different. You got to show them.
Yeah. Right. Of course.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, truly appreciate you being on the show, Tucker. Really, really appreciate it. You're a good dude.
My pleasure, brother.
Yeah, awesome, man. We'll call it out now, and you'll probably see this out in a week or 2.
Cool.
Thanks, buddy. Have a good one.
Yep. Later.
Cheers. Yeah. Talk to you soon.